Today, we're diving into a geopolitical move that, honestly, it caught just about everyone by surprise. And it ended up putting the very foundations of international law to the test. Okay, so let's just jump right in with a question that feels like it's from a different century, right? In today's world, can one country just decide to acquire another? I mean, it sounds impossible, something from a history book, but a pretty recent event brought this question roaring back into the headlines. So, what kicked off this whole diplomatic firestorm? Well, it all started with what looked like a pretty routine diplomatic appointment. But as you're about to see, it was anything but. So, picture this. It's a Sunday, and an announcement drops. Former President Donald Trump has appointed Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as a U.S. Special Envoy to Greenland. Now, an envoy is just a diplomat sent on a specific mission. So the appointment itself isn't that weird. But the mission? Oh yeah, that definitely raised a lot of eyebrows. In his own statement, Jeff Landry called it an honor to serve you in this volunteer position to make Greenland a part of the U.S. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. The stated goal wasn't cooperation on Arctic policy or building relations. It was to make Greenland part of the United States. A really blunt and pretty audacious mission statement. The official justification came straight from Trump's social media. He framed the whole thing as a matter of national security, saying Jeff understands how essential Greenland is to our national security and will strongly advance our country's interests. So right from the jump, this was presented as a strategic necessity for America. So how did the nations actually involved, Denmark, which Greenland is a part of, and Greenland itself, react to this unique mission? Well, their response was immediate, it was unified, and it was an absolutely crystal clear no. And this really boils it all down, doesn't it? On one side, you have the U.S. looking to acquire territory for its own strategic advantage, and on the other, you have Denmark and Greenland, and they're standing firm on their sovereignty, based on international law. There's really no middle ground there at all. The prime ministers of both Denmark and Greenland put out a joint statement that did not mince words. They went right to the bedrock principles of our modern world, stating national borders and the sovereignty of states are rooted in international law. You cannot annex other countries. It was a direct shot, aimed squarely at the envoy's entire mission. But it wasn't just about the law. They also made it about identity and the right of people to determine their own future. The statement continued, Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders and the U.S. should not take over Greenland. A very clear message that a people and their homeland aren't just pieces on a geopolitical chessboard. Then, Denmark's foreign minister at the time, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, chimed in, calling the mission deeply upsetting and completely unacceptable. And then he took it a step further. He actually summoned the U.S. ambassador in for an official explanation. And let me tell you, between allies, that is a very, very serious move. And yeah, summoning an ambassador, that's basically sending up a diplomatic flare for the whole world to see. So this wasn't just a squabble between Washington and Copenhagen anymore. The news sent ripples all over the globe, and pretty soon, key allies started to weigh in. The international support was pretty remarkable. You had the European Union saying Denmark's territorial integrity is essential. Sweden promised to stand guard over international law. And Norway was even more direct, just flat out declaring they stand 100% behind Denmark. The message couldn't have been any clearer. Denmark was not standing alone on this one. All of this just begs the obvious question, right? Why? Why Greenland? Why all this sudden intense and very public focus from a global superpower? What is it about this vast, icy, and sparsely populated island that makes it so important? To put it as simply as I possibly can, the answer comes down to 3 little words. Location is everything. All right, let's break down what that really means. Geographically, Greenland is the literal linchpin between North America and Europe. From a military standpoint, it sits on the shortest and fastest missile path between Russia and the United States. Economically, as the ice melts, it's revealing what could be a massive wealth of minerals and natural resources. And that means geopolitically, it's become ground zero for a new great game in the Arctic, with the US, China, and Russia all wanting a piece of the auction. So, when you peel back all those layers of strategy and geopolitics, what is this conflict really about? At its core, it's a classic, fundamental struggle, the principle of a nation's sovereignty versus the ambitions of a superpower. And we just can't forget the human element here. This entire international drama, with these massive global forces at play, is centered on an island with a population of just 57,000 people. That's smaller than a lot of towns. It's a pretty stark contrast that really highlights what's at stake. We've been using this word sovereignty a lot, and it is absolutely the heart of this whole thing. It's the simple principle that a state has authority over itself and its land without anybody else telling them what to do. And this isn't just some political theory. It's the fundamental rule that holds our entire system of international law together. It's what's supposed to stop the world from becoming a total free-for-all. And this quote here from Aja Chemnitz, who is a Greenlandic member of the Danish parliament, it adds such a crucial piece of nuance. She explains that, yeah, a lot of people in Greenland do want independence from Denmark, but the goal, as she says, is to remain their own country and develop their independence over time. The desire to be independent does not mean they want to be absorbed by a different superpower. They want to chart their own course. And that leads us to the final, really big question that this whole episode leaves us with. Remember, this wasn't a fight between enemies. It was a deep, fundamental disagreement between longtime allies. And it forces us all to ask, when powerful nations, even friends, start to challenge the most basic rules of the game, what on earth is left to hold international law together?